Okay, so ever since I uploaded that video where I talked about all the results of the 2020-2021 medical school application cycle, where I got 21 interview invitations and 18 acceptances, I've been getting quite a few questions in my DMs. Yeah, so people have been asking me questions along the lines of why I feel that I was so successful as an applicant, what I did to get 21 interview invitations and 18 acceptances, and all this, that, and the other thing. And I got some answers for y'all today. The overarching answer for why I was so successful and why I got all of these acceptances is that I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I would have to go and ask like the admissions committees and the people who said, yes, we want her. Am I going to do that? No, not really, because I'm done with this application cycle and I'm not trying to go backwards. Forwards, onwards from here, you know. Yeah, but I do have some thoughts, right? I'm not just going to leave y'all hanging like that. I do have some thoughts and I do have some ideas as to why I was pretty successful in this application cycle. Will I ever have the chance to prove these? No, but I know who I am as an applicant, and I do have some pretty solid ideas of why I did get so many acceptances this year. So without wasting any more time, let's dive deep into some of these reasons. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to say to anybody who's new here to this channel, thank you for joining me today. I am 𝐈𝐓'𝐒, and I make videos about the pre-med life, soon to be the medical school life, modeling in New York City, hair, and whatever else I feel like making videos about. If you have not subscribed yet, you can subscribe down below and I can love you forever. Because yes, you could like this video because it does help me out. Comment below, you know, all that good stuff. And if you are not new here, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you here again today. You know I love you already. Yeah, so I definitely had to get that out of the way because y'all are why I'm here. But yeah, so let's get into these reasons. The first reason that I think I was so successful as an applicant goes way back, right? We're not talking about interviews, secondaries, primaries, MCAT. No, we're talking about going way back. I was always intentional with whatever I did, right? You know that as a pre-med, you got to get involved in research, volunteering, clinical experience, shadowing, MCAT stuff, GPA. So all of those things are things that you have to have in the back of your mind always, right? So I did have these in the back of my mind, but I was always very intentional about everything that I do is not just to check off a list, is to explore. Is this something that I really want to do further in my career, further in my life? So I only held on to activity. I was open to trying everything, but I made sure that all of the activities that I stuck with, I had a meaningful connection to, right? It either spoke to my personal mission statement, like what I wanted out of my life, or it was something that I was able to learn a lot from, or something that I just got a lot of joy out of, right? So only keeping experiences like that. And I've already made a whole video about my AMCAS application and all of the activities that I put down there. Those are all ones that meant a lot to me, right? And that comes out when you're doing interviews. You can tell when somebody's passionate about something versus when somebody just did it to check off something on a checklist. It's about, and it's not about the quantity of hours, the quantity of activities that you do. It's about the quality of them. Come on, y'all, the quality, right? So that's the first thing that I started doing way back when I was an undergrad. And to be honest, I think that this is kind of an overarching theme in my application. Just kind of developing connections and sticking with these connections, right? And I think that's a mistake that a lot of pre-meds make, that they go try something, they try something, which is good, but find something that you like. Look in areas that you enjoy. Find something that you can stick with, right? And really just form meaningful connections with the people there, with the work that you do, and just everything about the experience. Kind of going off of this first point, the second reason why I do believe I was so successful is because I think I talked about this in a whole video, but I really do think that I had very strong letters of recommendation. And the reason why I think this is because it was told to me multiple times throughout the interview cycle. Of 21 interviews, I probably got told this maybe 5 or 6 times. on separate interviews that my letters of recommendation were really strong. And why do I think they were strong? Listen, I made a whole video about that, but the main thing to getting strong letters of recommendation, in my opinion, is to form relationships with these people and allow them to see you grow over time. Keep them in the loop as you reach certain milestones and like bring them along with you, right? If you're asking for letters of recommendation from people who are in your village, who are rooting for you, of course they're gonna be good. So I'm forever grateful for these letter writers, because I know, like, even just asking them and like the way that they responded, I could tell that they were happy to help me get to that next stage that I was working towards. I formed these relationships while I was in undergrad. So this is what, about 4 or 5 years ago now. And I've kept in contact with these people and really still continue to develop relationships with these recommenders up until now, right? I'm done with this application cycle, but best believe I'm still talking to my recommenders because they're a part of my village now. And I care about them. So if you haven't seen my letters of recommendation video, go ahead and go see that because it's up there. I talk about it. And the third point, the third reason why I do believe I was so successful is actually gonna come from, wow, what a shocker, Dr. Gray's The Pre-Med Years podcast. I only talk about this like in every video that I make on YouTube. I was more so a writer in undergrad. I was a social sciences major. I was used to writing papers all the time, but I love writing. And so I think that's definitely been a strength throughout this year for me. Because there's a lot of writing that goes into your medical school applications, right? Beginning with your personal statement, going into your activities descriptions and your disadvantage statement and all that stuff. It's all writing. When you're describing your activities and your most meaningful experiences, I think a lot of pre-meds do fall into the trap of being boring with it. Not gonna lie. Because it's true, the people reading your applications, they know what an EMT does. They know what a phlebotomist does. There's only so many ways that you can really write those job descriptions. Instead, use that space to tell your story, right? That's what Dr. Gray is always saying. Tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. And best believe, in every space that I had available on my application, I was telling my story. Instead of just saying, oh, I tutored kids in the sciences and I developed their plans for learning and all that good stuff. No, I talked about a student that I had that was interested in being an EMT and how I taught her to use a stethoscope and her mom called me later. Like little things like that, right? You can go read my activity statements later. But telling my story, I think that was a huge part of my success in this application cycle. And why I say that is because aside from the letters of recommendation that were great, like my stats, I think they were good, but they weren't excellent, right? They weren't like top gunner stats like in the 520 MCAT, 4.0 GPA. I didn't have that. So why did I get chosen to interview at so many schools? I think that's because of how I wrote my story. If by this point you're still watching my videos and you're just kind of like, I don't know about this Dr. Gray guy and the Pre-Med Years podcast, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you because I'm telling you that's where it's at. The fourth reason why I believe I did well was because I stayed organized. I mean, this also goes into just being a Virgo. Y'all know I'm a Virgo. I love a good Excel sheet. I love a good spreadsheet, all of that good stuff. But that was crucial, essential when it came to this application cycle. Thanks to one of my mentors, Sabina, she sent me a spreadsheet and it was basically like a Google Sheet document that allowed me to keep track of every school I applied to, every secondary that I submitted, whether I was accepted, rejected, waitlisted, updates. I even attached my own Excel sheets or whatever with updates and keeping track of when I sent updates, when I was going to medical school events, right? This was all just part of staying organized, keeping track of everything. Especially when it came to secondaries, I even had a spreadsheet that was keeping track of the secondary, when I received it, when I submitted it, the questions included in that secondary, the price, usernames and passwords for some of these portals that they have you make. And when it came to emails, don't get me started on the emails because I got a good 50 to 60 emails per school. And then once you actually get interviewed once you actually get invited to an interview and you get accepted to that school, they double up on those emails because now they're trying to sell you on the school. So yeah, it was a lot of emails. So what I did in my inbox, because I use Outlook, I was able to make separate folders for each of the schools that I applied to. And whenever I did get an email from a school, I put it right into that folder. Because I've heard so many stories of people missing out on interviews because it went to their junk folder, because they didn't see the interview invitation in time. All of this stuff, and I'm just kind of like, that's not happening to me, right? Stay organized with it. Don't miss those deadlines. When they send you a secondary, send it back quick. Don't sleep on your organization skills. Please do not. Now it's time to show up. And what do I mean by this? I meant that, listen, if you're going to apply to medical school, apply. Give it your all, right? Don't half beep it, you know. Because you don't want to end up having to do this again and again and again. No, that's not the goal. And no, not the goal. So what I did was I started showing up to things. That means that anytime there's a medical school fair, I showed up. I talked to people at the schools I was applying to. Anytime, and at those medical school fairs, I was able to get in contact with those people and be like, hey, what events do you have going on at your school in particular? And I was able to get those events into my calendar. So best believe, during the interview season, if I wasn't going to an interview, best believe I was going to a medical school event somewhere, right? So this was probably 2 to 3 times a week throughout the year. What you want to do is you want to dress nice, and you want to show your face at these places. You want to show up prepared and ask good questions so that they see your name, so that they say your name. You know, that's what you want to do at these places. You want to show up. And I've actually got a kind of a funny story about that. It was a little bit later in the cycle, and I was on the wait list for, what was it, I think 4 schools at the time. And I was still a little bit curious about one of these programs that I was on the wait list for. I'm not gonna lie. So I showed up to one of their informational events, and I was like, oh, I don't think this event is for me. I think this event, because this was like around April-ish. And I was like, I think this event is for people applying next year. But you know, I was still sitting there, I was still listening. I'm like, okay. And then I kid you not, the next day, I get a phone call from this school. They're like, hey Ash, we saw you in our informational session yesterday. And I even reached out to the secretary. I'm like, was that Ashley who applied? And then they were like, oh yeah, that was her. And then guess what? They accepted me. And that was completely out of the blue. I did not expect it. But do I think that it has something to do with me actually showing up to one of the informational events? Yes, I think it definitely did. Because just your name popping up there, your photo popping up there, that's you showing them that you're still interested. Yeah. So could it have also happened at other schools where I was showing up to the informational events, their meet and greets, all of that stuff? Probably. Who knows? Yeah, so show up. Number 6, just preparing for interviews. Right, and this is not just in terms of preparing for interview skills, which I highly do not suggest going in there and trying to memorize answers and all of that stuff. I definitely, like, what I did was I met with Sam at the Career Center at Fordham, where I did my post-bac, and she helped me throughout the entire application cycle in the interview season, right? Even just like on a weekly, monthly basis, a bi-weekly basis, she was helping me with hypotheticals especially, and like life stuff also. She was just awesome with everything. Thank goodness for Sam. But yeah, so we went through especially a lot of hypotheticals, because you want to be able to think on your feet, right? Especially when it comes to MMI interviews. When it comes to somebody asking you a hypothetical question or an ethical question, that ability to think on your feet, to be professional, to be composed when you might be nervous, that's something that I needed to practice. So I just kept practicing that throughout the entire interview season. The interview skills as well as the interview preparation, right? And by that I mean really knowing the school that I was going to and doing my research beforehand, right? Just showing up prepared, right? On time, looking nice, all that stuff. I think that also made a big difference, because you'd think that getting to that point in the application cycle where you're going to interviews, everybody would be showing up prepared. But No, that's not what I saw. I saw a lot of people who were not prepared. The last reason why I believe I was so successful in this cycle is because of my amazing support system, right? And this included my recommenders. This included Sam at the Career Center. This included my advisors, my advisor Laura at Fordham. Amazing. But I'm also talking about my family, my friends, my pre-med buddies, the ones who let me cry on the phone to them when I was struggling to just make a decision. Sam Forbes, you know who you are. Yeah, so my support system has really helped me through a lot this entire year. And without them, I don't know what I would have done. Alright, so we are done. Yes, those are the 7 reasons why I believe that I was so successful in this application cycle. Remember, I don't know why entirely I was so successful this year, but I still got, you know, these are my thoughts, these are my ideas, these are my theories, right? So I hope that they're helpful, and I hope that this gets your mind kind of moving a little bit if you are trying to apply in this year's cycle. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to comment those down below. I love to interact with y'all in the comments. I really do. And please give this video a thumbs up because it helps me out, and I know y'all love to help me out. So thank you. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already so I can love you forever. Again, it's me, 𝐀𝐏𝐏𝐋𝐈𝐂𝐀𝐓𝐈𝐎𝐍. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time.